And welcome to the Apex Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Bob GDMD, and I'm here as always, with my co-host,
Dennis V. How's it going today, Bob?
It's going great. We have a really amazing guest in today.
Incredible.
It's incredible to have Brody, the American Psycho McDougal here. He's a newly crowned professional MMA fighter with an amateur record of 4-0, and your first bout is coming up this March.
Yes, sir. March 30th.
Welcome, Brody. And you brought some stuff with you today. Can you show it up to, hold it up to camera? This is amazing stuff, guys. Wait till you see this. We just got some picture ops with this, too, so it's really cool. Look at that. What are those?
These are my 2 amateur titles. So I hold amateur belts for Reality Fights and Cage Titans Fighting Championships. Reality Fights is out of Connecticut. Cage Titans is out of Plymouth, Massachusetts. That's where I'm turning pro right now. But yeah, I was co-holder of both of these belts back in my amateur career.
And you hail from the fighting town of Rochester, New Hampshire, yeah?
Yes, sir.
New Hampshire all your life?
Yeah. Born and raised in New Hampshire. Born in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Then grew up, all around the Rochester area. Moved a couple of times, but always in the area.
Oh, well, thank you for coming out to, Massachusetts and spending the afternoon with us. Really a pleasure to have you here. So you started your early career as a hockey defenseman, right? You started really young as like a squirt and a peewee and worked your way up through bantams and all those things, and then high school, college, and then you switched over to MMA. And why don't you give us kind of a quick little lowdown of your history?
Yeah, quick lowdown on the history. Obviously played college hockey, 2 years at Framingham State University, 2 years at Anna Maria College. Directly following the close of my senior season of college hockey at Anna Maria, jumped right into my first amateur fight a couple months after that.
So did you
kept rolling with it?
Yeah, did you do Muay Thai or martial arts as a kid?
No, so I actually got into it my junior year, going into my senior year.
Of high school?
No,
of
college.
Oh,
sorry,
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
COVID year actually. COVID year is really what pushed all of it. I'd always been a fan of mixed martial arts. Always knew it was something that I wanted to get into one day. Wasn't sure about the actual fighting aspect of it, but knew I wanted to train. Knew it was something that excited me. So yeah, because of COVID, I couldn't train at the usual gym that I would to get ready for my senior season of hockey. It was shut down. And the only gym that was open locally to me happened to be Nostos MMA. So just kind of worked out that way. I called up Devin. I was working a pizza delivery job at the time. It was just like, hey man, can I just come train? I'm just a hockey kid. I don't really know if I have any interest in fighting or anything like that. I don't know if it's cool to just show up and train like a fighter, And he was like, yeah, dude, just come in, hang out, see how you like it.
So some of those hockey days of throwing the gloves down came into play then.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny though. People always bring that up. I wasn't like a big fighter in hockey. I was definitely a kid that played with an edge, but I was never someone that I would particularly call myself like a big tough guy or anything like that.
You weren't a goon.
No, yeah, definitely not. Just a dude that had an edge. And I think mixed martial arts is kind of where I learned that I can actually fight.
That's cool, man. So something completely new, and then you found out that you had an acumen for it. You had a little bit of talent.
Yeah, 100%. And that was kind of the key to me diving all the way into it, if you will. Hockey was something that I succeeded in. I felt like just purely because I worked harder than a lot of guys. Where mixed martial arts, when I started, I felt like I had an inclination and a little bit of a talent to actually do it. So it just, again, going into the mindset type of thing, I just felt if I could bring that same hardworking mindset that I had in hockey that got me this far without a lot of talent, putting in that same amount of work was something that I actually have talent in, I could probably go really far.
Yeah, so cool, man.
What's kind of taking me back is, so I thought you were going to say you did judo, Muay Thai since you were 2.
Yeah.
And you picked it up a few years ago.
Yeah, I've only been training for 3.5 years in total. I literally dove headfirst in, just started training essentially like a full-time fighter as soon as I showed up to Nostos. And then, I only had 4 amateur fights. I had 2 titles. I was ranked the number 1 170-pounder in New England. Made a splash fast.
Wow.
And just if you tell the viewer, you're fighting, those titles are big titles because you're fighting, it's well-repped, pretty well known throughout the country. You want to
Yeah.
explain a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely, it's two of the largest organizations in New England. I mean, Reality Fights is out of Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. So, I mean, it's, an arena. And then Cage Titans, Plymouth, Massachusetts is like previously widely been regarded as the largest, amateur to pro regional scene that we have here. So, yeah, having those two titles was pretty big.
How tough has it been to kind of make it, first of all, through amateurs, and then to move on to get the professional?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a steady process, really. Again, my head coach Devin Powell at Nostos MMA, he fought in the UFC. He achieved a lot in this game, so it's one of those things where I just have the belief that if I follow the steps that he puts out in front of me, I'm going to see the success, and I have been seeing the success. So, that makes it really easy to just continue on this path.
Well, we learned something just before we were having a little side chat before we started the interview. So you played high school hockey, you played juniors before you played in college, but it wasn't an easy path. We learned that your freshman year in high school, you essentially got cut. We're sitting there watching. But then you make it to juniors, which juniors is a small percentage of individuals make it to juniors then to play hockey. Talk about that.
Yeah. I was never someone that was naturally gifted at hockey. I don't think I was very good at it growing up. I was always the guy that was, the fourth line or the last D pair, whatever it was. I was, just struggling to get minutes on the ice. And then I got to freshman year of high school where that competition level then ramps up. You're not just playing with, the two age groups that you were previously. You're now playing with the four age groups, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And it was my first time getting cut, man.
And big difference between a senior and a freshman.
Right. Yeah. And I think I was a little bit later developing than a lot of people as well, which, played its hand as well. But yeah, so it was just my first time on the outside looking in. I was on JV, I wasn't on varsity, and I wanted to be on varsity, and I had never experienced that before. That first time watching my friends play from the other side of the glass.
So how did that sit with you? How did that resonate?
It ate at me, man. It ate at me probably a lot more than a lot of people will ever know. And it completely changed the person that I was into the person that's sitting here today.
Yeah. So one of the things about this podcast is it's a lot about mindset and creating a life at the apex that you want. And we're delving into the minds of people who are on that path to their personal apex, right?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me that I'm starting to see very often the same kind of things going into this. There's some turning point, right, where someone says, you know what, this is the fuel that I need. And I ask every guest, what's your compelling reason why you get up every day to do what you do? And why do you get up? And we're going to switch from hockey to MMA now. Why? There's days you have to put in work, right? You have to run every day. You have to do the workouts. You have to do the training, right? You have to eat right. All those things. And I can tell you through going through my own kind of transformation, there are days where I just didn't want to get up at 5 and do the run.
Transformations are painful,
Right.
man. Absolutely.
So what is it that's your compelling reason why you do it every day? There's got to be something deep inside that says, Brody, you got to go do it, even though you don't want to.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason, honestly, is living the life that I want to live. I've been an ADHD kid my whole life. Was someone that didn't necessarily struggle in school as far as, applicable ability, being able to, take the tests, but someone that just didn't have the focus. I didn't care, genuinely at the end of the day. It was just nothing interested me with general studies. And I always just felt I was a kid that was meant to be doing something of some kind. And always felt, even from the time I was, a little boy, was that I was going to be a pro athlete one day, or that, that was the path for me. So yeah, I think it was is that investment into, I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I don't want an office job. I just got out of my 9 to 5. I worked a 9 to 5 as soon as graduating college up until the launch of this pro career here. I'm a full-time fighter right now for the first time. It's really exciting. And honestly, that's most of it is just, I want to live this life. I don't want a 9 to 5. I want to live my life the way I want to live it.
Yeah, man, that resonates with me deep in my soul too, right?
Yeah.
I live that same way. I want to live my life the way I want to do it. And, I want to talk about confidence a little bit, right? One of the things that that is fascinating to me is as you get better at something, it seems that it helps with confidence. And I can only imagine that, coming from a career in hockey where you had to scrap to get to where you were at, right? And then shifting into something happenstance, right? And then you're good at it. What does that do for your confidence level in general in life? Not just in the fighting, but it's got to do something for your confidence level. Like when you came in here and we met, you came in and I could feel the vibe coming off you. You're a confident guy. Like, I know that if I were to run into you anywhere, you'd probably eat me for lunch, that kind of thing. But not in a mean way, but like you carry yourself in a really strong manner, and that's pretty impressive.
Thank you. It's interesting you say that. I heard an Instagram reel. It could have been earlier today even, where a guy was just saying something along the lines of confidence is violence. And it is because if you're not capable of violence or you don't have that about you, right, then anything that you're telling somebody to do or asking somebody to do, that's a mere suggestion, right? Because at the end of the day, they can do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
So I think just that general confidence of coming from the place that, like I'm confident in myself. I know I can take care of myself. I even remember back to, when you were in high school or whatever, and you walk into a group or room with a bunch of guys and you immediately feel this like strange inadequacy and like you're trying to immediately like level, compare yourself up, see where you're at compared to this guy, that guy over there looks really big. Like, and it's weird, man. Like,
who's the alpha of the room?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And I think once you have, kind of your own understanding of what real violence is and a confidence in yourself, it's weird. That just kind of melts away. And it's not like
it's that Zinzu saying, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a garden in a war, right?
Damn right, man.
And I think I'm stole that from Rogan. Sorry,
I love
Joe.
that one, though.
So
Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, hey, I love that one, yeah.
But yeah, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I think that's really where it comes from. Just that general confidence, like, you can take care of yourself, right? So you don't have a lot to worry about.
American Psycho. Where'd that nickname come from?
So I released these fight shirts. It's like a fundraiser, especially when you're an amateur fighter. It's how you really, if you're making any money, that's how you're going to make your money. It's just selling some of your T-shirts, some of your buddies. But I sold these T-shirts that, I had some like fake blood splatter behind me or whatever. And they were like, man, like, you look like you're from the movie American Psycho. Like, and it just kind of spiraled from that. People started, like making little jokes about it here and there. And then it was at my weigh-ins for Cage Titans, actually, for one of my amateur fights that they were pushing for a nickname. They love getting nicknames out of guys.
Yeah,
and I was like, dude, I don't have an official nickname, but someone did say this to me at the gym the other day. It's funny. It's cool. What do you guys think? And they were like, yeah, like if anybody should have that, it's you with the way you fight.
I've been following you on Instagram, and I love the energy that you're putting out there. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny because I get two kind of reactions from people. People who meet me in real life, and they're like pleasantly surprised with the type of person that I am, and then the people that are like, whoa, like, where's the American Psycho? They just like expect you to be carrying around that energy all the time. And like that's definitely not how I walk through life. I definitely don't walk through life the American Psycho. Like you said, I think I'm more of a calm, confident kind of individual.
Confidence is what I got when I met you at the door.
Yeah,
I was like,
but
all right, I can groove with this guy for sure.
Yeah, but when that flip switches, we got the Psycho.
It's game on.
Yeah,
right?
that's all you need.
Yeah. For sure.
So let me ask you. So you had your amateur fights. You're going professional, full time now, and obviously you had your mindset and your training routine as an amateur. What is a typical training routine for a professional? Is that different than what it was as an amateur?
Slightly. I was doing a lot as an amateur. I was still doing pretty much everything I could do. Not having the 9 to 5 opens up a lot for me now, especially as far as just being able to structure my day in a way that it's not so hard on me.
I would think recovery becomes easier too.
Exactly, yeah. So previously, when I was working a 9 to 5, going through my amateur career, a lot of the time, a couple of days a week, I was waking up as early as 4:30 in the morning to go in to do jiu-jitsu or to lift before work. I would come home. I work from home 9 to 5, which, I mean, I'm not complaining. Obviously, I'm working out of my own home, which is a comfort. But I'm still up, I'm still doing something. I still have things that are expected to get done.
Yeah, and that time is dedicated to other things. Yeah,
Right,
sure.
exactly. And the biggest thing at the time was it felt like a kind of a waste of time, you know what I mean? Because it's not what I wanted to be doing, and I felt like it was taking away from where my true talent was and what I should be doing. So now having that eliminated is big, turning this into a full-time professional career and something that I'm just trying. I don't know if it's going to work out. I might have to end up getting another 9 to 5 job, but for right now, like I'm just trying as hard as I can.
Yeah, you gotta try.
And it's either going to work out or it's not. But yeah, so I can just structure my day now in a way that I don't have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning necessarily, unless it's something I want to do to build myself mentally, right? Because that's a different thing. But I don't have to. If I need to sleep in for that recovery, like you're talking about now, I'm afforded that opportunity. And I can structure my workouts in the day where they're separated out a lot more as well. So I don't have to hit 4 classes at night and be completely wrecked and then try and wake up at 4:30 in the morning and make my body do something,
So how many hours a day are you putting into training?
Anywhere from 4 to 8 at least.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm easily at the gym 40 hours a week for sure. Yeah, and that's not including things I'm doing on my own time. Running, my own lifting, my own bag work in my garage. I have an ice bath that I sit in every day, which sucks. Like,
Yeah,
and
but you
it's
gotta
only
do
3
it.
minutes, but I count
You
it as
gotta do
something.
it.
You know what I mean? So yeah, like
Yeah,
it's
the whole thing with the dopamine with
Yeah.
the ice bath is just huge.
yeah,
right?
it's incredible. Yeah. But yeah, I think just and it really is a 24-hour thing though. You know what I mean? If you're a fighter, if you're a real fighter, I think it's a 24-hour thing. It's always in your head. Like I'm constantly thinking of how I could be getting better, or am I wasting my time right now? Is there something that I should be doing right now that my opponent will be doing?
Yeah, that's always in the back of your head, right?
all the time,
How
man.
much are they outworking you? Or are you outworking them?
Yeah, well, it's never really a concern of mine of like, are they outworking me? It's always like, I want to bury you.
Yeah.
Like, I want to bury you in work. When I show up, when I fight, I walk out there with confidence, and it's not false confidence. It's confidence, and
Because you
I
should-
know what I did.
you
Like,
showed
I'm
up for
ready.
yourself.
I'm ready. Yeah, like
You did the work.
and again, we say it at the gym all the time. It's a cute moniker or whatever, but it's true. Like, and I burn the boats, man. Like
Yeah.
I'm ready to die in there.
Can
Like
you-
when I walk in there, I'm ready to die.
That's one
Like,
of my favorite things. And
100%.
I'll talk to my so I do coaching clients too, and I have my staff here and do what I got to do, and I say, we're burning the boats, and most people don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Can you I love that saying, and I think about that all the time. When I think back to when I was first starting out, I said to my my close friend, he's like, how did you just do it? Like you went into all this debt to create this, this company and all this. I said, burn the boats, man.
Yeah.
Like, can you describe that for the audience, like what that means? Because I think that's so hugely important to mindset.
Yeah, without getting too dark, especially coming from a fight perspective, when walking out there, it's just the understanding that anything can happen. There are things that are going to happen that are out of my control. But I've done so much work, and I believe in myself to a point where I'm not going to quit on myself in there. Whatever happens, happens. And yeah, and that'll be it. But I'm in there, and I'm either going to walk out. I've said it a lot, I'm either going to walk out with my hand raised or wake up in a hospital bed or, like whatever. Like, that's fine. Like, when I walk in there, I have one job, and it's to stop that other individual. And if I don't succeed, I'm not going to leave.
Yeah. So burning the boats for me was like, they were talking about, one of the first, the story goes that, this invading army comes to the shores. They have all the boats, and the general's first order is burn the boats. And, one of the other soldiers says, well, General, if we burn the boats, how do we get home? We got to win the war, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way you're getting home.
Exactly.
So that's that kind of like, you're all in.
Right.
100% all in.
Yeah. And I think you see it a lot in fighting too. Guys that don't burn the boat, something hurts, they starts not going their way, they take their exit stage left. And that's just not me. I'm not going to take a knee for anybody. If you get me out of there, you get me out of there.
Yeah.
So you play hockey.
Yeah.
For quite a long time, and you were coached. There's a lot of preparation. College, you know your opponent. You spend a few days leading up to it preparing. Do you get a book on your opponent, and how do you prepare? Like, do you know what their strengths, weaknesses are, what type of fight they are before you get in there, or is it early in the game where you may not know much about them?
Yeah. So back in the amateur days, sometimes it would be pretty sketchy. You often don't get a lot of information. The information you get is often from their coaches. So it's
say no more.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny. My first amateur fight, actually, I again had pretty much zero training experience. I think I've been training for like 3 months in total. And they told me I was going to train or fighting a new jiu-jitsu guy. Said he was like just gotten his blue belt, because I obviously had very little jiu-jitsu at the time. We're flying out there. I'm getting on the plane, man. And they released like this guy's highlight video. He's wearing a purple belt. So he's like very good in jiu-jitsu. And he's been training for a very long time, clearly, to achieve that. So it's just like, you never really know. You show up and you scrap when you're an amateur. But yeah, now that you're a pro, you get more information. You get the name of who they want you to fight beforehand, obviously, before you sign the contract. So you do your own homework, and you do your own risk assessment, if you will. If it's a matchup you like, then yeah, you sign the paper. But as far as leading up to it, like, there's not like a playbook per se or anything like that. You watch their old fights. A lot of that I put on my coaches. I try to not spend a lot of time looking at my opponent. I like to genuinely focus on like what I do well, what I'm gonna do. And I allow my coaches to kind of just structure my training camp in a way that I'm going to hit the areas that they want me to hit.
No, rounds are 5 minutes, right?
Now that I'm a pro, yep, 5 minutes.
That's a long time.
It can be a really long time, man. Yeah, 5 minutes can be a very, very long time.
The mental toughness.
Yeah.
Fighting through those 5 minutes, how do you do it?
Yeah. So without giving too much away, we have fight rounds that we do at the gym every week. So if you're in fight camp, you have to do them. And it is whatever amount of time your fight is, just pretty much all the worst things you could imagine doing for exercises or whatever, like how to completely exhaust yourself in that amount of time. And it's just literally, if I'm fighting for 15 minutes, then I just suffer for 15 minutes through the hardest workout.
It's like a hit workout for 15 minutes
just
so your interval is 15 minutes.
Just designed to crush you. Like, it's just literally designed 15 minutes to crush you. It's like it's set up to be a sprint. Nobody in the world, I don't care how good a shape you're in, you can't sprint for 15 minutes in anything. You can barely sprint for a minute in anything, if that. So it's literally designed to just cripple you and be as painful as possible. But it does build that mental toughness of, how much worse can a fight be, right? Like, genuinely, like, sure, you might get knocked out or look silly or even break something. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm putting myself through like pretty much the most painful thing I can voluntarily for, 6 to 8 weeks leading up to this fight anyway. Like, I'm not really concerned about it at that point.
Yeah. I wish I could have you speak to some of my transformers, right? So the people who are doing transformation challenges, right? I'm involved in that quite a bit. And I go and give them mental nutrition, and I talk about mindset and mental toughness and all this stuff. And, you're training for 8 weeks, basically, to get ready for a fight.
Yeah.
And that's usually how long we do a transformation challenge for.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll have you at some point come on in and do some mental nutrition for those guys if you would be willing to do it.
I would love to. Yeah, absolutely.
Because, sometimes for someone who's been sedentary, even just getting up every day and doing 20 minutes is a lot.
Yeah. And looking at that, just a little mental nutrition, I guess, for anybody that's watching too, I would say my biggest thing, and the way I get through fight camps is like, again, you can't look at it as a 6 or an 8 week thing. Like, you just show up every day. Like, I don't even, a lot of the times I don't even look through my entire day. It's just whatever that next workout is. Yep. Whatever it is that Devin has laid out for me, I'm going to show up.
Execute.
I'm going to do that as to the best of my ability.
Yep.
And then once I get through that, if I do that workout to the best of my ability, I'm going to get that dopamine rush. I'm going to feel good about myself. And then I'm going to carry that in the next workout.
Yeah.
And that's just how it has to be, man. Because, again, like if you look at it from this larger than life perspective, right, or even going back into like the fighting aspect of things of, man, I have to do this whole training camp for 8 weeks, and then I have to go get in front of thousands of people basically in my underwear and fight this guy in a locked cage, like it quickly becomes very overwhelming. But if you just break it down into simple things like, A, this is what I love to do. This is the life I want to live. I truly want to live as a professional fighter. I know I do. I love it. I love every second of it. If I could just train and I wasn't allowed to fight, but I could just train and that was all I ever had to do, I never had to worry about making money or anything like that, I'd be cool just training in MMA for the rest of my life, genuinely, if that was my job and that was it, if I couldn't compete anymore.
So you love it.
Truly love it. It's all I want to do.
That's cool.
But yeah, getting the opportunity to compete and stuff, you just break it down into those smaller sections, and I just show up every single day. If I wake up on Monday, my first workout is to wake up and go lift in the morning. I'm going to go hit that lift. I'm going to do it as well as I can. I'm going to carry that into my jiu-jitsu class, carry that in my wrestling class, carry that into sparring, continuous. And again, and maybe you have a bad day too,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
And then you have to be able to
Put
it's on the
beside,
next thing. Like if I
for
get
sure.
beat up in sparring and I wake up tomorrow,
You're bruised
and
up and you got to go do it again.
right, and I'm like, oh man, like I suck, like I got beat up yesterday, I don't feel good today. How am I supposed to do, what I'm supposed to do today when I already feel like crap? Like you just got to block all that stuff out, and it's just, I have this one goal. I have a workout at 9 a.m. I'm going to show up at 9 a.m. and I'm just going to try as hard as I can at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And what I produce is what I produce, and we can go from there. But I'm just going to show up and try as hard as I can at 9 a.m.
Yeah, so king of execution, right?
Exactly.
And,
yeah.
I talk about going into the tunnel, right? When I go into a prep week right before the end of a challenge, I basically shut off my socials and I say, hey guys, I'm going in the tunnel. I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's just focus.
Yeah.
Nothing but focus. And I live, breathe, eat, macros and cardio and recovery and lifting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting that it just goes from discipline to discipline. It's always the same. Chunk it down and focus in on your goal and do the best you can in the moment.
Yeah. I think that's how you live a happier life, genuinely too. Like I think a lot of the times when people get down on themselves or might start getting overwhelmed or depressed about something, it's because they're looking at it from too large of a scale. And if you just break down like whatever problem you're having into just, even day by day pieces of like, I'm just going to get through today.
Moment
like
to
whatever
moment
it is.
even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's severe depression, right? And it's
Yeah.
like someone that can't get out of bed. And it's like, today I'm going to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's all it is. Maybe today I get out of bed. I'm going to walk outside. I'm going to force myself to look at the sun. That could be it, man.
For
That
sure.
could be your thing. That
sure.
like, that's your thing to do for the day. And you go out and you do it. And then after that, you can give yourself a pat on the back and you go spend the whole rest of the day laying in bed.
Yep.
But
That's like the progressive overload, and,
Yeah.
incremental improvement every day.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, maybe it helps. At the end of the day, maybe it also doesn't. That's something that you're just going to have to figure out for yourself. Like I'm sure there's a lot of things that work for me that aren't going to work for everybody. We're all different. We are all motivated in different ways. But yeah, I think it's just honestly just trying to make things more manageable for
Yeah,
yourself.
that's all pure gold right there.
Absolutely. So you're an MMA fan before.
Yeah, of course.
Who did you like? And I have a question after that you may not want to answer, but who do you want to emulate? Who's that fighter?
All right, so those are actually two different questions. So going back to the original question, who I like, I would say like my number one fighter growing up was Forrest Griffin. The original Ultimate Fighter was kind of actually what got me into MMA. My older brother and his best friend would watch the Ultimate Fighter on Spike TV, and being that little brother, I just wanted to hang out with my older brother and his friend, and that was kind of like my real introduction to UFC. And then we all got really into it. We ended up getting like the UFC game for Xbox 360 back in the day and stuff like that. And that was kind of my initial introduction. But as far as like who I'm trying to emulate now, is really kind of a combination, like a lot of the top strikers. But a lot of them are smaller guys. I don't really emulate a lot of people close to my size or larger. A lot of the guys I look at are like 35ers, like Sugar Sean O'Malley, Ilia Topuria, who just won the 145 belt, just incredible boxing, just tons of power. And And then, yeah, I just always loved just dudes that were scrappy back in the day, too, like Robbie Lawler, ruthless Robbie Lawler was always one that, like, you knew even if you won, like, you were going to bleed, and that's the kind of, moniker I want to carry as a fighter, too. It's like, you can fight me, man, and, like, you might even think you're going to win, but no one gets in there and thinks I'm not going to make them bleed. Like, I'm going to touch you. You're going to hurt. And, one of us is going to win, but you're going to pay a price no matter what.
So let me ask you this. Do you ever envision or have this dream or goal of somebody in the UFC that you actually want to be in the ring with?
All of them, man.
That's what I like to hear.
All of them.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, what is it? I'm sure I'm going to botch it now, but it's like make your... It's like something along the lines of the people you look up to, like you want them to be your competitors one day.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Like, yeah, and it's the truth, man. Like,
that's shooting for the apex.
Every single dude that I see fight at 170 pounds in the UFC, I'm already comparing myself to, and I haven't even had my first pro fight. Like, and it doesn't seem so out there to me either, and maybe that's a crazy thing for me to say. But even going back to like the hockey comparison, is growing up playing hockey, you watch the Bruins, right? When I watched the Bruins, I never thought I could play for the Bruins, if that makes sense. Like, I never was like, I'm going to be good enough to do that. Yeah. Like, never once did it cross my mind. Like, when I watch these guys fight in the UFC, I can do that. Like, I don't see anything that remarkably terrifies me about that man compared to anybody else. Like, that's a human being. He bleeds, puts his, one leg in his pants at a time.
Yeah.
I see a human being there, and I see openings, I see opportunities, I see things they don't do well, all the way up to Leon Edwards, the 170 champ, man. Like, I like my odds against a lot of them, man. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just crazy, maybe I'm just the American psycho, but genuinely, it's how I feel. Like, I like to think if you put me in the UFC right now, like, again, I might not beat them, but they're gonna bleed.
Yeah. So
confidence, grit, energy. I mean, this room is exploding with energy
right
and
now. Yeah, for sure.
And positivity. I mean,
for sure.
You believe in yourself. And and something you said early on, you see opponents sometimes. You watch boxing or MMA, and you see somebody step in the ring, and they're like, they don't think they're going to win this.
Yeah, no.
And you're going in that.
I've had that sense from guys I fought. It's like, I don't know. You can't describe it, especially at the stare down. Like, after you just make weight. Like, it's hard to posture after you just made weight. You just cut. You're like, your body feels weak. You're lethargic. So it's hard to like bring up any like false bravado or anything like that. So I think it's really when you get a true sense of. And there's a lot of times, man, like I stare down at people, and it's like, you look into their soul, and like you tell like if they're scared, if they're excited. I think you get a pretty good sense of what they're going to bring, honestly, just from that 30 seconds of looking in their eyes. Like, you get an idea of, like, if this guy's about it or they're not.
Yeah, so when you're getting into the octagon, right, tell me about the nerves of that moment, right? And then when you're about to go, like, how do you get past, how do you handle the, like, I was talking to Dennis the other day. We had a guest in, and I was talking to him about, right before he goes and does his thing. I can relate to that. I used to play in a rock band and played in front of some significant-sized crowds at one point. And I can tell you the energy and endorphins and adrenaline I had, I could almost not play the first few measures of the song because I was just all up in my head. How do you get yourself in the right headspace right before the fight? Like, do you get into the tunnel? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm working on it still. I think it's a process that until you retire, you're endlessly trying to refine. You know what I mean? I don't think anyone's ever found like the perfect way of doing anything. But I think, again, like the biggest thing is just keeping yourself in a positive mindset, telling yourself positive things, especially out back before you make the walk. Because that's, I think, when like the most nerves are kind of in. You're just hanging out, waiting for your name to be called, really, you know what I mean? Other than getting your hands wrapped and hitting some pads, you're hanging, you're waiting, you're hearing the crowd, you're hearing,
it's all building.
You're watching dudes come back all messed up. Yeah, exactly. And
how do you step in knowing you are definitely going to be taking a hit?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. You swim, you expect to get wet. Yeah,
right. So like, you're like, how do you willingly step in there knowing that you're going to get hit, you're going to get touched, and it's probably going to hurt?
Yeah. I mean, so again, maybe I'm just a little crazy. I'm genuinely not concerned at all about the physical aspect of what's happening. I'm not really worried about getting hurt. I'm not really worried about like getting hit or anything like that. Most of my nerves come from underperforming, the fear of underperformance.
Yeah.
The fear of just, I think, looking foolish, you know, especially when I first started. Now,
I can tell you
now
that.
I have a little bit of
Yeah,
respect,
for
you know what I
sure.
mean? So like, even if I was to look foolish for whatever reason, I feel like I still have like, you know, a little bit of respect under my name.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when you first were starting, like my first fight, man, that was the biggest thing I was worried about. Like I didn't
You
care.
don't want to look like a
Dude,
chump.
I
you
didn't
know?
care if I
Yeah.
got the shit beat out of me, man. As long as I looked like I knew what I was doing and
Yeah.
had some respect at the end of it, that was all I cared. Like you just don't want to look foolish and look like you're just wasting your
Yeah.
time. And especially like, I mean, I kind of talked pretty confidently about myself from the get-go, you know, like I told people before my first amateur fight, like before I'm 30 years old, I'm going to fight in the UFC, like, and I'm on that path right now. But it's kind of crazy when you say that stuff and you put it out there to
Yeah,
the
you gotta
universe.
deliver, man.
Yeah,
You
man,
gotta
you know,
deliver,
and
yeah,
like
for
you,
sure.
and you can believe it as much as you want in your heart, but when it comes down to it
All
the
right.
day of and you're out there, you're like,
I
damn,
can totally relate to that.
all right,
Yeah,
like here we
100%,
go.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of, it's that feeling like just jump.
It's
right?
it's
like
a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like it's a little bit of that.
yeah,
right?
yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
get
I don't think you can escape it. I really don't. No matter how hard you work, how hard you train, how prepared you are, I don't think you ever feel like you're going to be prepared enough, that you've done enough, that you can do enough. And I think it's just one of those things, again, it's like when it's time to jump, just jump.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is going to happen, man. You know what I mean? You're just going to ride it out. And I think that's part of why I love it, you know? And again, when you're walking out there, it's just that adrenaline rush is there, but at the same time, you're calm, you're confident, like you're in that headspace, just like I'm going to beat this guy's ass. Like, because there's nowhere else to go, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, that's how I feel. At least it's like, I already signed myself up to get locked in there.
Yep.
There's nowhere else to go. So I'm gonna beat your ass. That's it.
So I got another question about that, right? And this is actually coming from my significant other. She always, whenever we have a fighter in here, she asks these same questions. Do you ever? So now you're finishing a fight, and you won, right? And the guy who you were in there with is hurt pretty bad. Do you have remorse afterwards?
No. Can't. There's no room for nice guys in this game.
Yeah,
He'd do the same thing to me.
for sure.
He signed his contract knowing
Everybody knew what they were getting
exactly.
into. Yeah.
I know, and that's why I say it every opportunity I have, every podcast I'm on, every time I talk to my family, so they understand. Like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm going out there and doing when I sign my name on that contract, and that's why I work so hard and put the time into this that I do. But yeah, so no, absolutely not. No remorse.
Powerful. There's a lot of the next Brody McDougal out there, the little McDougalites running around there that want to enter the game. What advice you went through the amateurs, you're hitting the professional now. What advice would you give to them?
Just try and love it. Try and just genuinely love it. Try and love the experience. Especially when you're first starting, man, like, because you suck, right? Like, you suck. And I'm a freak competitor in everything I do, to the point where I couldn't play board games growing up because I couldn't play anything that was left to chance. Like, I have to be in control if I win or lose, whatever we do. So, yeah, I would just say, like, try to remove a little bit of your competitive aspects. Because, again, if you're getting into fighting, you're going to be someone that's hyper-competitive. You have to remove a little bit of that to be willing to lose in the gym and lose against these people that are, of course, a lot better than you so that you can grow.
Humility is huge.
Yeah, because it got to a point where I was so competitive that I wouldn't allow myself to do some training sessions that I knew I was going to lose in, if that made sense.
Yeah.
Or like
sure.
if I knew I was going to, like if I'm going with a guy that's like a really, really good, like I'll try not to go with the dude that's a wicked good wrestler because like mentally, I don't know if I can handle getting smashed for 5 minutes. Like you have to remove yourself from that and just, it's going to happen. Right. And then eventually you get smashed on by enough really good wrestlers, you start getting good at wrestling yourself, you know what I mean? Or whatever other aspect you're trying to get good at. But yeah, that's really it, man. I think just trying to love it, try and remove the competitive aspects from your training, and just work on getting as good as possible. You know, there's so many aspects, there's so many disciplines. There's like, you can't ever learn everything there is to know in this game anyway. Like my head coach, Devin Powell, like he's probably forgotten more things than he still remembers in the sport. You know what I mean? So it's like, just absorb everything you can, be a sponge, try to enjoy every second of it. 'Cause it is hard, you know, it's already hard. That's the other thing I try and tell people. Like it's super hard, man. It's probably one of the hardest things you can do. So you have to love it and you have to try and have as much fun with it as possible, because if you go into every day with the need to be the winner and the need to be the best, and you're so hard on yourself, you're going to burn it out of yourself. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to love it, because it's just too hard at the end of the day.
Yeah.
March 28th. It's your birthday, right?
Yes. Yeah.
March 30th is your first fight.
Yeah.
How nice would that be? Is that the birthday gift you're looking for?
Yeah, that's definitely the birthday gift.
Not a
I'm
gift,
looking
but
for.
something you want to
Yeah,
go
definitely earned, you know. Definitely not given. It'll be earned. But yeah, no, for sure. Want to know as a pro would be an amazing way to start the 27th year.
Yeah, why don't you plug that fight?
Yeah, guys. So I'll be fighting March 30th in Plymouth, Massachusetts at Plymouth Memorial Hall. Unsure as of now what time the event will be starting. Probably around like 6 o'clock at night is usually when they start kicking things off, getting doors open. I will have tickets. You can reach out to me on any of my social medias at Brody McDougal 21 on Instagram, Brody McDougal on Facebook, and I can get tickets left aside for you guys. Just let me know what you need. But yeah, March 30th at Plymouth Memorial Hall in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Debut.
It all goes down. This is absolutely a career to follow, everyone. Is there a Mrs. Psycho in your life right now?
Yeah. I got a girlfriend. Yeah,
All
Jade.
right, cool,
Yeah, she's
cool.
awesome.
Cool.
She's definitely the number one supporter.
So she'll be right there by your side.
She's actually working that night. So she's pulling the 9 to 5 to help, fund this fight career over here.
Fantastic.
But yeah, no, she'll be working and she'll be buying the pay-per-view. But yeah,
where can you get the pay-per-view?
Right from the Cage Titans website, cagetitansfc.com. Yeah, it'll be a really easy link. They're trying to get you to buy it, obviously. So there'll be a giant buy button, I'm sure, as soon as you log onto the website.
Awesome.
And yeah, buy the pay-per-view right through there.
Right on. Well, you've been a fantastic guest, and it was fascinating diving into like your mindset. I resonate with a lot of what you said, and I think the viewers are going to love this episode for sure. What do you got to add, Dennis?
First of all, social media. Where can we follow you?
Yeah. Again, Instagram at Brody McDougal 21, and then Facebook is just Brody McDougal. That's really all I do for social media. Trying to up that social media game again now that we're a pro. But yeah, just keep track, watch, and yeah, it's gonna be exciting.
Brody, I've known you for about 7-8 years now through college, and obviously watching your trajectory and watching your star rise. You've always been a great guy. And it's great seeing you mature into the man that you want to be and following your dream and going at it 150%. And if you want something in life, you got to go get it. And you've showed the viewers whatever you are choosing in life to go get, you got to go get it. So great job. You have 2 big fans and supporters out here. You got to watch the American Psycho. This is a guy to follow, and, we're going to follow your career.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
We'll have you in again when you're going into the UFC.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You guys have me on anytime. I'd love to come back.
Awesome. You've been a great guest, Dennis. And Dennis.
It's go time.
It's go time. We'll see you guys all real soon.